Thanks for coming out today, guys. Thanks for the introduction, Robert. We're here to just share a little bit about our story, where we've come from, what we're doing, what we're looking forward to doing in the future, just answer any questions anyone may have. As Robert mentioned, I come from real estate development and craft brewing industry. So hemp is fairly new to me as well. But over the past 2 years of learning about this industry, there's a lot of information out there, but it's kind of hard to navigate through. There's a lot of bullshit, so as you guys are finding, it's sometimes difficult to find real valuable information. So we're here to answer any questions you may have from a business side. Anybody that's entrepreneur, we can help there. And then Don, of course, with his agronomy background, and Clint with his farming experience, we can just shed any light on any information you may be looking for.
So, any questions from the audience so far?
Can I make a comment, Peter? Yes, I'm coming out of a tobacco background, but I joke with my family that sometimes I feel like I'm working with my children because, with the exception of me, most of Blühen is 30-some, 20-some, and from my perspective, it's very inspiring and very uplifting to have this opportunity to work with people that are extremely competent and qualified in this business, to be establishing a brand new industry. And, to me, that's once in a lifetime opportunity. And I'm just excited to be here now, if you will. And as we've met with many of y'all the last couple of days, this industry here in the UK and in Europe is very much just getting going as well. And so to me, that means wonderful opportunities to work together, to partner, and to make this business happen here as well as back home. And we're all in this together. So thank you for this opportunity.
If I could just steal the floor, then I have a question. I'd like to know about the journey that you've been on as a company to success, and what lessons you've picked up through that journey. And I'm always a big fan of learning from mistakes. So if there was any mistakes that you made along the way, would you be prepared to share those with the audience? What you did with those mistakes, how you turned them around into a positive?
I don't know if we have enough time to talk about all the mistakes we've made, but we'll try to highlight a couple. I think the thing that we've learned the most as an organization is to be really nimble. Make sure that you have the ability to pivot at any moment, because this industry moves faster than anything I've ever seen. The amount of growth that we've seen just in the 2 years that I've been in this industry is astounding. So we, as an organization, always strive to be flexible, nimble, malleable, make sure that any opportunity that we see, we can learn as much as possible and execute very quickly, because the opportunity has gone incredibly fast. So other mistakes we've made, we try to be really well balanced, not over-invest in one particular vertical. So you'll find all of the conversations we have surrounding our organization are about being truly vertically integrated. So you'll hear the term seed to shelf often in this industry and beyond, but we really practice that. So anything from farming, owning land, farming, really having an intimate understanding of each piece to that process, I think is something we strive to do daily, but also remain very balanced in each of those, so that when opportunity is presented in one of those particular verticals, we can focus a lot more attention right there.
So any questions from our audience?
Hi. So my wife works in agricultural law, and a lot of her clients are asking about industrial hemp as a diversification from what they're doing now. They may be growing corn or something. Is there anything that you could share? Did you always start from hemp, or did you come from somewhere else before? The challenges you faced in switching?
I'll make a comment from the farmer perspective that in our particular case, this is occurring at a time when the farm economy in general is depressed. And I mean that in terms of each agricultural enterprise, be it corn, cotton, beans, tobacco, dairy, beef, whatever, is not really generating sustainable income that makes a farmer happy. And so, it's quite serendipitous, perhaps, that the CBD hemp, the hemp in general, is coming along at a time to offer the farmers who are willing to take the risk and grow hemp a wonderful opportunity just from a financial perspective. And even as that market begins to mature in the future, we believe that will continue to be a very profitable enterprise option for them. So it's the tobacco farmers are what they're typically doing is reducing their tobacco acreage some, not totally, as they grow hemp, because they have to manage their overall labor operations for sure. But it's supplementing, and in some cases I think it's going to be even a saving, if you will, of the farm, given the economics of it right now. To me, I've always said tobacco makes a small farm big. Certainly hemp makes a small farm big as well.
That's an interesting response as well, because yesterday in the audience we had a Dr. Colin Morgan who was sat here all day. I don't know if you remember when you presented yesterday, there was a chap in a mustard jumper who was sat at the front. Now, he was the Business Development Director for Sustainable Food and Farming, and he has come along to represent the industry, the farming industry in the UK, because they're now actively looking for alternative products that will make the farmer happy. So I think there's some real clear correlation there. Has the audience got any other questions?
Yeah, hey, I'll touch on your question real quick. A lot of farms in the U.S. do grain production, so like your cereal crops. It's totally different. So that's an agronomic practice where we're talking about more of a horticulture practice. It's much more labor intensive. It's not sitting on a tractor and in a combine later in the season. We're talking about several hundred hours, sometimes over 400, even 500 hours worth of work from start to finish to get a crop to sale. So it's much different than the agronomic way. But that being said, farmers can convert. It's just lots of times different equipment and just more labor. So if you can find the labor, start small and work towards getting a bigger acreage the following years, but don't overdo it early. You don't want to bet the farm on a crop that you don't know yet.
Well, and I'll add on to what Clint just said here. With farming, we always encourage our farmers to start small, right? That's the thing that I think we focus on daily, because farmers tend to overproduce. And with a high value crop like this, with overproduction, that biomass price can adjust down significantly with that overproduction. So we would always want to make sure that for any economy, whether it's US, UK, that farmers be mindful of that overproduction, because if they spread the wealth, you can have more of a sustainable farming practice moving forward for everyone.
And you mentioned on the policy side, on the ag policy side, it's very difficult lots of times to get into a conservative area and discuss cannabis as a whole, much less even hemp. So it's a tough spot to do. But the best thing you can do is go in with an education and not think of it as you're trying to push a certain industry, but educate them on the aspects of what this can do for the farmers and the rural economy as well.
Any questions?
Y'all can ask us just about anything, by the way.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Yeah, I'm interested in industrial hemp as a break crop, as a replacement to crops such as oilseed rape in a current rotation. But after the answer you just gave before, I'm thinking, what about as a restorative crop? So to improve unproductive soils potentially.
So it is phytoremediary, but it is not a pulse crop in that it doesn't supply nitrogen to the ground. So there's lots of good aspects to farming hemp. One of those is remediation of soil. So if you have a accumulation of heavy metals, it will actually pull those up into the plant. You can harvest that plant material and get it off to, lots of times it's best used in gasification purposes for energy. It can also be used for ag feed and bioplastics. I'd recommend bioplastics over ag feed because lots of times that's still going to accumulate in the animals. But bioplastics is coming along really fast in the States, and I would hope that UK can jump on that bandwagon as well, because we're talking about massive amounts of plastic being used every day and thrown away, and it fills our landfill, where hemp bioplastic is actually biodegradable. But as a break crop, it's definitely something you should look into and put into rotation, just to make sure that you're keeping your soils clean. It does require a bit of fertilizer, but I've noticed here in the UK that y'all do utilize compost quite a bit. And so you take care of the land, and that's really what we're here to talk about, is the sustainable part of the industry and how it can improve the farm and the soil life as well.
And that's interesting, because there is a current drive with our government over here to reduce plastics, and I think that hemp would certainly be one of the solutions that should be viewed.
How many states in America are growing hemp industrially, and what range of products are actually available in the marketplace in relating to hemp clothing, plastics, etc.?
I believe we're up to like 33 states in the U.S. right now, but we actually just passed a federal farm bill which fully commercializes it. So in the next year, all 50 states will be able to grow it. It's just getting those regulations out. As far as fiber goes, there is a bit of fiber production going on in Kentucky, a company called Sunstrand. There's also a company in Nebraska called Basscore doing some work as well, and a little bit of grain production going on. Not as much grain production as Canada, but hopefully we can get to an acreage with fiber that we can actually get a large-scale processor in to do decortication and spinning and weaving.
Well, and I think that the thing that's really exciting about with this industry right now is they've identified over 50,000 uses for the hemp plant. We're currently utilizing maybe a couple thousand of those. So in terms of the longevity of this industry and the multiple different ways that you can get involved, CBD is one of many. And if you look at cannabis as a whole, CBD is one of over 100 identified cannabinoids. So we're really just scratching the surface.
Any questions?
I'll touch base. This might spark some more questions from the audience because there's a large retail presence here this weekend, obviously, and that's something that we're launching now. We are in the thick of product development, and it's really exciting. We enjoy it as a team. It's challenging because that's one of about a dozen different projects we have going right now. But we're launching our first retail May 17th, and that's not a push for you guys to come buy our product. It's just to give a timeline. We started our product development late 2018, and our brick and mortar is going to open our brick and mortar retail location in downtown Knoxville. So we're launching e-commerce and brick and mortar at the same time. And that's been an experience. There's a lot of challenges there, but overall it's been really exciting. So if there's any questions anyone may have surrounding retail, we can maybe shed some light there as well.
You touched on challenges. I'm interested in challenges, always interested in challenges. What's your biggest challenge that you feel you're facing as a company now, but also what do you feel the biggest challenge as an industry is, and if those two things are different?
Real quickly, just based off what we can see here, one of the biggest challenges for consumers would be consumer protection of these retail products. So full testing, not just a CBD level, which should be very much so a standard, but also you're testing for your heavy metals. Because lots of times the people taking these products are children and elderly. They're going to be the most affected by having heavy metals and pesticides in there. So I would love to see more of the companies here providing that at the retail space to make sure that there is some protection for consumers. Because like I mentioned, it is phytoremediary. It does pull heavy metals. Those heavy metals can accumulate in our bodies as well. Our bodies don't do a real good job of letting those heavy metals go, and once they can accumulate to a certain percentage, there's lots of health issues that can come with it, and pesticides are even worse when it comes to that.
Well, last year in the U.S., there was a study where they took random products from the shelf and ran tests not only on CBD content, but also heavy metals, pesticides, residuals, things of that nature. 77% of those products failed. So for our organization, we are self-regulating at the highest level. Our facilities are built to GMP, not just US, but EU GMP standards, GFSI, ISO, you name it. Whatever certification is appropriate for the type of facilities that we are manufacturing in, we make great strides to ensure that our product is made in a safe environment, because this is an ingestible, this is a consumable, this is going in people's bodies, and just know there are a lot of products that are being formulated in someone's garage in an uncontrolled environment, coming from, say China, where there's some really poor quality CBD coming from, that's laden with heavy metals and all the things that you should not be putting into your body. So I will echo Clint there. Please do your due diligence. Make sure that you're getting your test results. There's some really scary things that are happening in this industry, and it is an ingestible.
One of the challenges that we will be facing this year has to do with the fact that farm production of hemp is going to triple, quadruple, several fold, obviously. And so for us, making sure that we work in the right ways on a timely basis, using the expertise that our farm team has to ensure that they are successful, because we need them to be successful for us to be successful, and vice versa. So that's a challenge that we will meet, but it will take, as Joe and Clint have been saying, continued efforts with us, because this is new for most of them, and you have to grow to know what something is, so you don't want to start off too big, but you need a certain amount of knowledge to grow at whatever level you are. So making that happen is a challenge, but it's a challenge we're well equipped to meet, and actually are excited about doing that this year.
And as far as this is more of an industry as a whole. It moves so fast. So one of the challenges we face daily is just keeping up with the pace, but also taking the time to make sure that we're making a conscious effort to do our own due diligence. It's very easy to get sucked into this industry and make those mistakes very quickly because it's exciting. Once you really get involved, it can get out of hand very quickly because there's so many opportunities. So we challenge ourselves daily to stay really focused. And make sure that we aren't overcommitting to too many things at once, because there are so many different opportunities out there.
So would you say it's fair to say then, as an industry, that the hemp industry is sort of embryonic, is still in its very early stages?
Absolutely. And 2 years ago when I first started that due diligence mission, I felt like I was behind. I was always wanting to catch up because there were so many great people, highly knowledgeable folks like Clint that have been in this for a lot longer than I had, and all of the economics made sense. So if I'm able to understand the economics, it tells me there's a lot of other people much smarter than I am who are looking at this industry. So for me, it was always about finding a way to catch up. But now that we're 2 years into this, you really start to understand that yes, it is embryonic, it is in its infancy stage. So there is opportunity there, but I think we're also tasked with understanding that we can be really influential. That's something that's really humbling for us as an organization, is we've grown this brand faster than I could have ever imagined. I mean, this business is 6 months old, and we just have amazing partners all across the globe that are helping us scale this much faster than any of us thought. But what that also means with that success is that you're in a position to really influence this industry at a high level. So I'm sure there's a lot of influencers already here in this crowd, but just know if you're just now starting your journey into this industry, you can very quickly have a huge idea that's wildly successful, and just be mindful that we can shape this industry. That's one of the things that's most exciting for me and us and as an organization is our ability to influence this industry and, of course, achieve success, but try to put in some sustainable solutions so that everyone can be in this for a long time.
Is there any questions? Yes, sir.
Just walking around the expo, one thing I've noticed is the amount of vape and e-liquid in the UK. How does that compare versus the US?
Yeah, we got quite a bit of CBD vape in the States. But we do a lot of like capsule-based products, tinctures, salves, creams, cosmetics as well. We have a very, very, very large vaping industry in the States. So yes, but I'm quite impressed with the amount of vape industry that is present here at this event.
You know, one thing that just this past week, and there's been multiple studies come out now, but again, going back to due diligence, there are so many issues that the vape industry is faced with right now. One of which is the heavy metals, which are being inhaled. So the degradation of that heating element, that's a major issue. There's a 90% failure rate was the latest test in California for that heating element. And when you're talking about the degradation of a heating core being inhaled, that's really scary stuff. So again, I hate to repeat myself, but due diligence is so incredibly important in this industry right now because it is the Wild West. It is just open doors. Anyone can come in and sell a product, make some claims, but not actually have data backed with that claim.
Yeah, ceramic solderless on your vape would be key. So anytime you have something soldered and it's heating up, solder has lots of bad stuff in it, and so it's going to be released. And so ceramic solderless is your best bet.
And what's interesting about the vape and the correlation as well is that when vape started, that the regulation and compliance was actually forced upon us in the vape industry, as we all know. And that hasn't come out quite as we would have liked. And I think there's a lesson to be learned there, and there's a clarion call, this call to arms that could be done now for the hemp industry, where we take the stewardship and responsibility on ourselves so that we make sure that we form that regulation and compliance moving forward. That's my personal viewpoint on that. I don't know if you guys agree.
No, I mean it's very much so a self-regulated industry, and unfortunately, a lot of folks don't self-regulate to a very high standard, and that's why we challenge ourselves to reach the highest regulation standards. And that's fantastic for our product, and that's at the core of our business. But if you're really looking to make a long-term play at this, it only makes sense to self-regulate at the highest level because governmental regulation is inevitable. It is coming, and if you're prepared for it, you're not looking at a major retrofit of an entire facility, right? A couple of tweaks based upon the regulations is all we expect to have to do. We aren't going to have to do a major overhaul of our facilities because we should be compliant from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. You get accreditation in place, and you've got the appropriate compliance, and you form almost your own set of standards of regulation in your mind that are of a high standard. There can't be much to change, can there? You've not got to go on. So any further questions?
I'm just going to touch real quick on the regulation. What's really exciting for us to see are folks, I think Don is a great example. Don has such a wealth of knowledge coming from over 30 years in the tobacco industry, PhD in agronomy, and he's applying that knowledge to this industry. You'll find there are very few people that have been in this industry as long as someone like Clint Palmer. If you've been in this for a couple years, you're almost a dinosaur at this point. So know that your knowledge that you have from other industries can be very easily applied in many different ways to this industry. So we encourage anyone we have conversation with, don't try to reinvent yourself. Take the tools that you have, take the knowledge that you have from other industries, and find a way to apply it to the hemp industry as a whole.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you any further questions? Yes, sir.
As it seems, there is a big issue with heavy metals, pesticides. Are any legal, lawful actions being taken about those responsible, the agrochemists, the agrochemical industries who've been dumping this poison onto the earth? Is legal action being taken against them for poisoning the earth in this way?
Yes, we actually just had our first glyphosate trial in America, and so there's actually a big case going on there. But one of the things we're doing in our state is I work with legislators on policy, and so we're working towards, and we're actually in our legislative session and our bill writing session right now with the political aspect of it. And we got 5 bills running, and one of those is actually going to be a consumer protection-based bill that requires all products to be thoroughly tested, not just for CBD, but for all the other things that I mentioned, like pesticides, heavy metals, and VOCs as well. I would love to see something like that happen in the UK because, like I said, we have a lot of children and a lot of elderly that take these products. They're going to be the most affected, and we got to protect them and the mid-range of ages as well. And the only way that you can do that is self-regulation through policy and also through bills. So we can do it if you have like a trade association. Lots of times you can get like a silver accreditation through a trade association, but I'd like to see it more required through a bill because then it'll actually go into code, and that's where you can get into the legal side of it and a protection for consumers.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've just about run out of time. If you would like to catch up with Joe, Don, and Clint, please go across to their stand at Bluhen Botanicals. If you could put your hands together now, I think that was a wonderful Q&A. Thank you very much.